All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're at here on this fine Wednesday. It is 10:10 a.m. That's California time here where I'm at. April 16th, 2025. Goodness, got already halfway through April. Latest activity shows a 3.5 earthquake there across California. Look at all that broad scale movement happening all along the Gulf of California down into the Middle America Trench. In fact, last couple days here, we've seen things really into motion in terms of the plate movement out here. Let's go ahead and check out California here first. See what we have. We'll go over here to the USGS map. Take a look at that 3.5 map here real quick. Or that earthquake here that's striking up here at the southern end of the Gorda Plate. This is the plate boundary between the Pacific to the south and the Gorda Plate up here to the north. Better known as the Juan de Fuca Plate. They call this whole section the Juan de Fuca Plate, but technically there's three separate plates. 3.5 earthquake, very shallow quake activity here, about 1.7 miles into this region. Looks like a number of earthquakes out here so far today, 3.8, 3.0, 3.5, and I can only imagine how many other little ones are taking place out there as well. For whatever reason, this area, the USGS, even when we had that 7-pointer back here in December of last year, they did not report a lot of the smaller quakes, mostly the 1s and 2s following that 7-pointer. They would report everything above 3.0, and it looks like that's what they have set out here for the preliminary earthquake reporting here, 3.0 and above, even though technically, they should be reporting even smaller quakes such as this, the 1-pointers down there. But whatever reason, right here specifically at this pretty much a triple point boundary, 3.0 and above. That's just what I've observed. So we got a little bit of activity happening up here. I can only assume that we got some 2s in there as well. Because you got to remember, for every 3-pointer, there's got to be some sequence of events out here in terms of smaller quake activity. Got a little bit of adjustment going on here, but that's part of an overall pattern trying to take place out here. That's kind of why we've seen a lot of movement here across Southern California recently. A lot happening here in the Gulf of California. Nothing showing up here on the USGS map, but I guarantee you it's there. The EMSC model is reporting, looks like a number of 4s down here. 4.3, 4.4 from late last night and early this morning, and that is stretching down here to the Middle America Trench. So this whole area, including the plate boundary up north, is on the move, and it has been here, right? We've seen a lot of activity in Southern California, and it's showing signs up in Washington as well, inland, with quite a few quakes happening up there. So as things are on the move, we got to be prepared for maybe some larger scale activity about ready to take place out here. Getting a pretty good swarm of activity right at the Pine Rock. Well, this is the San Andreas Fault, the creeping section, area of the plate boundary that really, it doesn't lock up like areas to the north and to the south. We get this creep going on here along the area of the plate boundary where small quakes take place. It doesn't really build up into larger activity such as, the Parkfield section down south and, of course, the rest of the San Andreas Fault. But this right here, when we see it, it means that things are on the move here. So we got a number of earthquakes out here in the last 24 hours. A lot of this striking out here today. Some movement around the Calaveras Fault and the very close to the Hayward Fault here as well, where they branch off. So keep an eye on the this area of the plate boundary today as well. That includes Bay region. We haven't really had a lot of earthquake activity up here yet. I think we'll probably see this fill in some fashion because we've had just way too much earthquake activity down south and now a lot up north here. Watch the Bay region. It's kind of quiet there. As far as Southern California activity goes, let's see what we got. Nothing above 2.5. Still seeing some earthquake activity down here where that 5-pointer struck just a couple days ago. A number of quakes in the smaller magnitude there this morning. A lot of them below the 1.0 threshold. But I like the fact that they're actually reporting even the smaller quakes below 1.0. For example, like I said, up in Northern California, it doesn't happen that way, even though it should. An earthquake is an earthquake. That's how I see it. So even though it's somewhat quieter in terms of the 2.5 and above, we're still seeing some movement and adjustment taking place there. And it's been crunching out here, so to speak. I like to use that term crunch because that's what's going on here between the two major plates. Got a lot of crunching going on, indicated there by that earthquake activity. So California is somewhat active. Washington, a number of earthquakes up here as well. 3-pointer way up north. This is a part of a swarm that's been going on up here. If we check out the last 7 days in this area of all magnitudes, got about 39 earthquakes. I think we've had a little bit more past that date. Maybe not. So it looks like 39 earthquakes in this swarm. A bunch of various magnitudes, including some 2s and 3s, with really no main shake. And that's why they call it an earthquake swarm, because there's not like a 5-pointer that struck and then a sequence of aftershocks following that. It's just a bunch of mixed magnitudes out here. In the past, historically, there's some larger activity that strikes down south here in the 6 range. So that may be a sign of seeing some larger activity there off 97 in Washington. But just something to watch. Also some movement out here in the desert air region. This has been another area of earthquake swarming. And from what I've been told, there's some type of hazardous storage facility out here. I don't know if it's this area or not. I mean, hard to tell what that is. But definitely got a little bit of movement stirring up out here. And even last year, this area was swarming quite nicely. But it's just recently re-picked up again in terms of the multitude of counts there of earthquakes. Not a whole lot going on through the Cascades for now. Washington area looks pretty quiet along the coast. Same with Oregon, but you know, we got the Cascadia subduction zone sitting out there. Got to watch that area quite closely. Yellowstone National Park, nothing showing up there on the map. But I do want to double check that and make sure we don't have anything suspicious going on as far as swarming. And looks pretty quiet out there. I'm not seeing a whole lot of earthquake activity on the maps. Those darker blue lines that you're seeing right there are some outside noise, such as wind. Wind will do it a lot. Summer thunderstorms also show up here on the graphs. So not a whole lot of earthquake activity happening there for now. Texas oil fields lighting up a little bit out here. Lighting up, not lighting up in terms of, you know, going up in smoke, but got some smaller quake activity there from yesterday, a couple from today, but things are easing up a little bit. I guess that's a better word, right? As far as earthquake activity goes. New Madrid seismic zone, nothing major going on. One earthquake outside of that zone in the Georgia area, little 2.2 from yesterday. So taking a look here at the world view. Got a lot of activity ramping up out here across the region. I mean, we've seen this here in the last couple weeks. Just a large amount of earthquake activity all over the place. And that's a sign there that, you know, the plates are they're doing their thing. They're moving around quite a bit. Got some interesting activity well south of Australia there yesterday with a 6.6 and a 5.2. Most of the time, the adjustment should take place up here following, you know, that pressure transfer. When we get that divergent boundary activity out here, tends to add strain up along the Middle America Trench. Somewhat noticeable here this morning with a bunch of 3s and 4s in the wider color circles indicating that newer activity following the events yesterday down there. So keep an eye on that region. Part of the crunch zone. I call it the crunch zone because that's pretty much where all the plates like to, the majority of the plates in this area tend to subduct and collide and, create a lot of pressure out there. Japan, pretty quiet right now. Some further movement along the Aleutian Trench up north with a 5.2 earthquake along the Aleutian Trench here. That looks like it's from last night. But a little bit further up north inland here. Put my phone on silent. Yes, my ringtone on my phone is the EBS, Emergency Broadcast System alert, the alert system there. Why? I don't know. I just like it. It's cool. So when it goes off in the store, if I'm shopping somewhere or at an airport somewhere, people look at me. They're like, what is that? What kind of emergency is going on? Nope. No emergency. That's just my phone ringtone. So a little bit of further deeper activity up here into the Aleutian Trench. It's going to be this movement right here. 169 miles deep for that 4.1. It looks like there's a little bit of further activity there. Maybe a three-pointer just as deep in that region. Keep an eye there on the subduction zone. Those deeper quakes normally add strain upstream, and the Aleutian Trench is no stranger to big earthquakes. Bunch of activity here is noted on the Gulf of California, stretching all the way down past the Middle America Trench. Keep an eye there on Southern California. It's still, it sits there on that plate boundary, and things are on the move. Some newer activity down here across the way south here in the southern Atlantic, 5.6. See what we got here across the USGS map here. Southern Mid-Atlantic Ridge, divergent boundary zone, with some fracture zones out here as well. This looks like it's striking out there maybe in the fracture zone or just off of it. But either way, this is just one of the latest earthquakes there in a series of earthquakes there in the Atlantic. Right, divergent boundary activity, separation of the plates, obviously, right? We learned that in school. Picture perfect fitting there between the South America area and the Africa continent. This is slowly separating apart, and over the last few weeks here, following these events right here, bunch of 6s and 5s, that's when things really started to kick up out here in terms of the plate movement. We've seen a couple 7s, including the largest earthquake so far this year in Myanmar with that 7.7, and a number of other 6s out there. So when things are active out here across the Atlantic Ocean, that's when the plates really start to stir up out there. Now we got another earthquake down south, so things could be ramping up out here across maybe South America region here soon. South America's always got earthquake activity there along the Peru-Chile Trench, but nothing as of yet far as uptick goes. But this is a fairly new earthquake, so we'll watch that. Could see some renewed activity down here across the South Sandwich Trench here as well. Some of this is older movement activity from yesterday. Let's see, Mediterranean region got some 2s and 3s out there. Really nothing big. New Zealand sitting there on the plate boundary for now, quiet. A couple 3s from yesterday, one from today, one from yesterday. Let's go ahead and check out the Santorini, Greece area. I do like to double check this, make sure we're not getting back into any major swarming out here. It's been an area of interest here recently with thousands and thousands of earthquakes here, leading up to some speculation that we could be looking at an eruption across the area, but that never took place. 194 earthquakes. The counts are increasing out here compared to the last couple days. That's the last 7 days here. As far as the largest magnitude, near term, as far as recent activity goes, there's not a whole lot. Looks like a couple 2s in there and some 1s, but the numbers here in the weekly count are staying consistent or raising up a little bit, because that means that there's some increasing activity, increasing earthquakes in each day, leading to that number rising. So we'll continue to watch that, but as of right now, things are just sitting there, just doing their thing. The Alaska area, someone mentioned about Mount Spur up there. It stirred up the news a little bit here, but I think let's refresh that. Things are just kind of somewhat stable, sitting at a yellow for Mount Spur. That sits up in Alaska area. Unrest continues at Mount Spur as far as seismic activity goes. Occasional small, shallow volcanic earthquakes detected beneath the volcano over the last day. That was put out here yesterday. They're just continuing to monitor it. It could just have a little bit of earthquake activity and then die out. As far as the earthquake activity in question, not a whole lot there on that seismograph station. That seismic wave there, I believe that was at 1900 yesterday. So, we had that decent earthquake, right, from yesterday. Let me see. That was the, I believe that was this earthquake down here at 1842. Way down in the southeast Indian Ridge. That's showing up on the seismograph station there in Alaska. So that's the S waves. Pretty neat to see, but it just goes to show you those seismic waves can travel. Ooh, they can travel around the planet. But as far as local seismic activity goes, there's not a whole lot. A couple smaller ones, but those, I mean, for being a close station there at Mount Spur, they're not really showing up as very close earthquakes. So, I mean, nothing new really to report on the Mount Spur area. It's just something to watch. It's underneath yellow. It could eventually completely die out, and then that's that. Far as Hawaii goes, let's go see here. This is an older image, recent image right now. Really not seeing anything of eruptive status, but I forgot to check it yesterday. We're still going up. This is the electronic tilt at the summit, and we're actually past the level seen in previous eruptions. So we're very imminent here in terms of seeing an eruption, unless it continues to build or maybe gets offset somewhere else. But yeah, we're leveling out here, it looks like, in the last few hours. That means that we're at a pressurized time frame here where we could see things kick up in terms of the eruption. So watch that. That could kick off at any minute. But right now, just a whole bunch of volcanic gases there around the area. This is much larger than it looks. These are trees up here on the ridge. So that's a huge crater area. All right, space weather activity. I heard there was a G3 class storm kicking up. It looks like it's still kicking up. KP index above 7. That's quite impressive. You know, last night when I was doing the update, we were looking at a BZ-BT component pointed north, which was suppressing the auroras. Well, that looks like it's opened up and really kicking up the auroras right now on the opposite side of the North American plate here. So that's, not looking good for us, but for the folks out there across the rest of the world, where most people should be sleeping, you got decent aurora possibilities right now with that G3 storm coming in. Highly amplified. And originally it was forecast as a G2. Looks like it died down a little bit overnight and then really ramped up. And I guarantee you that's because of the solar wind stream and the dynamics that take place here with it. Let me show you guys the BT-BZ component. Look at that. Wide open. This is what we had last year during the May solar superstorms. Wide open, just about as wide as you can get, and allowing for the aurora amplification. Last night when we did the update, it was pointed north here, but something happened which allowed that high-speed solar wind stream and the plasma that was associated with that filament eruption a couple days ago to really affect the Earth, and that's what's happening there. So enjoy it if you have it. Get outside. If you got dark skies out there, I don't know if this is going to stretch into tonight or not. We'll have to see, but it's exceeding expectations. As far as solar flaring goes, now that the active area out there on the western limb is out of sight, out of mind, things have dropped. In fact, it looks like we're going down into the B flare category, the boring class. So that is that. As far as any active areas, we do have a number of active regions coming around the eastern limb here. Not really impressed with 4062. That's this area right here. It looks like it's just sitting there, not doing a whole lot of anything. But back over here and one over further on the southeastern limb. Look, it's hard to tell, but they're newer sunspots. We'll get a better visual of them here in the days ahead, and they may be active. We'll have to see. We've got some bright features there showing up on the UV filter of the sun. As far as any close approach asteroids go, let's go ahead and take a look here from the NASA site. You guys see that, what is it, Blue Horizons? That spaceship that went up into, I guess they went into technically the limits of space there. Katy Perry was involved in it. It was interesting. That's all I'm going to say. A little bit of speculation going on that, but I'm not going to get into that on this channel. But it's interesting to watch. 390-foot building-size asteroid discovered back in 2011. Look at that, 3 million miles away almost. So we're pretty safe in respect to distance-wise. Everything else, as far as ones being monitored, are safely passing the planet. Severe weather today. Got marginal risk out here across the beautiful state of Kansas. Absolutely beautiful state. Might be my home state here one day. Soon. Wichita included in that. Looks like mainly just due to a little bit of wind and some small, well, can't really say small hail, right? Because they're talking about maybe, let's see what they're talking about here as far as hail goes. Just says hail will likely be the primary risk with these storms. Really not a whole lot of, as far as the size goes. I mean, it's probability of 1-inch diameter hail or larger within 25 miles of a point. So 1 inch, that could leave a couple dings on your car. So I would consider that probably large hail. Not, the huge hail that can get done out here in the springtime, but a little bit going on. Still looking favorable here towards the end of April, beginning of May, for a pattern shift here of a more severe weather setup across Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas. Your typical tornado alley out there. So we'll check back on that as we get a little bit closer. But it's looking likely here. These models have been staying consistent with a return of substantial moisture out there across Texas area. Let's see here. This is the 21st. Look at all that firing up across Texas, the south. And I think we'll see, I definitely think we'll see some decent severe weather out there. It's looking favorable. All right, let's see. Double check here of California earthquake activity. There's that 3-pointer off the coast. One more earthquake here since I've been yakking, it looks like. Or was this on the map? Maybe not. 1.1. One earthquake here on the Parkfield section. That's just right at the end of the creeping section in the Parkfield section. I think this is the Parkfield segment of the San Andreas Fault here is coming up on the time frame here very soon, should be anyway, where we should have a 6-pointer. Last one was back in 2004, and the regular intervals here on this segment, because of the dynamics here, where it locks up on the south but creeps up on the north, that every 20 to 22 years. So we're looking at a time frame here where we should see a 6-pointer soon. And, of course, a little concerned that a 6-pointer could trigger the southern branch here that's locked and loaded for, a major adjustment. So we'll keep an eye on that. This area just north of the Parkfield section has seen a lot of earthquake activity here. A little cluster going on. Parkfield segment remains quiet, but like I say, it's building. All right, seismograph stations out there look pretty quiet, calm for now. Please be on guard, though, because we do have a lot going on out here in terms of massive plate adjustment. We'll catch you guys out here a little bit later on this evening, unless something major happens. Enjoy your Wednesday.